Hello and welcome to this episode of Geeky Sci-Fi TV, a special episode in which I talk to John Collier and Alex Storer about their new online book, Blackpool Remembered, Remembering the Doctor Who exhibition in Blackpool. How are you, chaps?
Hiya.
How's it going?
Good, thank you. Absolutely torrential outside, but warm in here.
Well, you seem to be in the right place anyway. So tell us, how did this book come about?
So this book has been in my head, I would say, for at least 20 years. In terms of the exhibition closing in 1985, I never got there in the last couple of years. Didn't go in 84, didn't go in 85. My sort of interest in Who at that point was just waning a little bit. I'd found music and other things in life. And so in 85, I had my first holiday abroad in Greece. And then 86 came, and of course you read it all about the exhibition closing. So from that point, I kind of there was a little hole in my life, which was like you never got to see the end of the exhibition days, having gone since the mid-70s. And so I've just collected things in terms of bits of either it's memorabilia, things like the poster behind me, or photographs found on the internet, and over the years magpied so much stuff. And filed it all away, and thinking that one day I will create this book, this sort of visual history of the exhibition, which is what we've done effectively. And if it wasn't for Alex, I probably wouldn't have got it done, to be fair.
And I've seen some of the illustrations that you've done, Alex. They're outstanding. How did your involvement come about?
We haven't yet established the answer for this. We're not entirely sure how we met. We just sort of knew each other online. I mean, as it turns out, I'd written a small Who memoir in 2011 called Who, Where and When, which John had downloaded. And around the time I was doing that, I was doing my own research for a personal project where I wanted to build a floor plan of the exhibition from the year I went, which was 1985. And along the way, I'd found a scan of one of John's maps that he'd drawn as a kid when he visited. Except I only found out a few weeks ago that it was his. But yeah, John, what? There's a few years between us, isn't there, John? Maybe 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, I don't mind saying I'm 51 now. And it's really weird because we sort of bookends the exhibition, really. I first went in possibly 74. I'm not sure if it was the very first year or 75. So it would have been 5 or 6. And then Alex went right at the end of the exhibition. So we've got the sort of full range of those years when it was open, really, which is a bit strange.
Yeah, I mean, I was 7 in 1985. And as a absolutely obsessed Who fan, it just blew my mind. I was in awe of the place. And I never forgot it. And like I said, it was something that I'd been personally researching myself, very much like John had been doing, collecting stuff online, any photographs. Because back 10 years ago, there was hardly anything online about it. There were a few very small, low-res photos on the Richard Who website and a couple of other places, but there wasn't much to be seen. So it's been interesting. And yeah, we connected on Twitter, and I think it just went on from there because you originally, John, you wanted to use the excerpt that I'd written about the Blackpool exhibition for my book in yours. But I said, okay, I'd like to rewrite it because I've remembered more now and I know more now than I did then. And being a science fiction illustrator, I think I just thrust the opportunity on you any chance to say, right, can I draw something for it? And it's just gone on from there, really, because it's a kind of project I've always wanted to do or be involved in. And it's a sort of project that nobody's really done before, especially not dedicated to one exhibition. And I think so many fans have such a soft spot for Blackpool. I went twice in the same week. So at least I don't have to say I only went once. I did go twice. But I do envy those people that managed to go in the previous years.
Did you go yourself, Dave?
Yes, I did. I went about 5 times. I think the first time that I went was it would have been late 70s, 1977, something like that. I was at that age where, I mean, the first one I can remember was the horror of Fang Rock, which really, really scared me. So I'm 4 or 5 years old, that sort of age where you thinking it's sort of semi-real. And And I just remember being terrified. It was a bit like a roller coaster, you know, the way that you get really scared before you go on a roller coaster. And I went in and kind of rushed through a bit because I was so scared. And afterwards, I wanted to go back in again. But the cliche about people hiding behind the sofas to the Daleks, I was never scared of the Daleks on TV. I love the Daleks on TV. I used to wish that they were on a lot more. But when I was face to face with them in the exhibition, it was a different story. I mean, for people who don't remember the exhibition, no, it was there on the central pier of Blackpool seafront, and they had the big Doctor Who mural and sort of giant-sized TARDIS police box, and you would walk in there through the police box, pay your money, go down the stairs, and it was absolutely pitch black, and they had the sound effects and the music playing, and it just created this real sort of unearthly atmosphere. And as a kid, 4 or 5 years old, the first time when I went, my heart was beating out of my chest. It was really quite a scary experience. And, you know, like I say, that was the only time, really, when I was frightened of the Daleks. He seemed very intimidating.
You've summed that up really well. You've described that really well. And what's been interesting, I thought I was the only person who, well, my granddad paid, and I got just at the top of the stairs, saw something hanging above, which I believe is a giant spider, although there's some debate whether it's a giant spider or the pterodactyl from Invasion of the Dinosaurs. But whatever it was I saw, I just promptly turned around and ran off in the opposite direction. Wouldn't go in the first time. And I thought I was unique, but then in researching the book, so many people have got a similar experience where they said, "Nah, couldn't go down." Just the dread of those dark stairs, as you described them, and the sound effects. I mean, the theme tune, you could hear it across the prom. You could hear it from Central Pier. You know, it sort of drew you in. Alex has recently recreated a soundscape that takes you back to that time and gives you that atmosphere. And so that was the hook. And if you were brave enough, you got to actually, as you say, explore the corridors, very dimly lit, and then at the end of it, get past that sentinel Dalek that guarded the console room, and then that was the heart of the exhibition, the centre of it. And of course, the best bit was still to come, because it was the shop before you exited.
Yeah, definitely.
The shot was unbelievable. I mean, you have to look at it in the context of its time, and I've said this before lots of times on videos and podcasts and stuff. So people will have to excuse me, but to go back to that moment in time, late 70s, early 80s. Obviously, we didn't have the internet. There was no DVDs. There wasn't your Netflix or your BritBox or whatever where you could rewatch stories. You had 3 channels, and most people probably didn't even have a VHS player at that time. So it'd be on TV, and then you thought you were never going to see it again. The one thing I did used to do sometimes is put my cassette recorder next to the TV, so I'd have some sort of soundtrack of it and listen to that in my bedroom. But the only other thing you had was the Target books, the annuals, and Des Skin's Doctor Who Weekly comic. But once you got to the end of the exhibition and they had that shop there, it was just the Doctor Who mecca. They had everything, all the Target books, records, pencil cases, you name it. You didn't know what to spend your money on.
It was like the Doctor Who equivalent of a sweet shop, wasn't it? And the Target books were absolutely one of the things that was a massive seller. And again, lots of people have recollected in their stories that we've got in the book about how important the Target books were. Because as you say, once something had been aired, that was it. There were very few repeats. I do remember, was it the 5 Faces of Doctor Who in the early 80s, around about 83 with the 20th celebration? And I've just finished the shop section last week, and I didn't realise that the video cassettes went on sale sort of just like 18 months before the exhibition closed. And they were really pricey. They were really expensive. So if you got your hands on one of those, one of the original Revenge of the Cybermen video cassettes, which had the wrong Cyberman on the cover, had the Earthshock Cyberman, or Brain of Morbius, or some of those early releases, you were doing well in life to have those and a video player back at home to play them on. But
they were the first two, weren't they?
They were, yeah. But the Target books were the thing. That was the the way of reliving it?
I think very much like yourself. I went for the last time in 1984. We'd gone on holiday to Blackpool, and I went twice in the same week. And after that, my interest in the programme started to wane a bit, because Peter Davison had regenerated into Colin Baker. And I feel bad about this because I really like Colin now, but at the time I'd seen the Twin Dilemma and I thought he was awful. And I'd grown up through the sort of gothic Tom Baker era, and then Peter Davison. And by the time we got to Colin, I kind of felt it wasn't scary anymore. I thought this used to scare the living daylights out of me. Now it's a little bit like Rent-A-Ghost. So after that holiday, I kind of drifted and lost interest in Doctor Who quite a lot. Like yourself, I got into pop music, and I'd also really got into the Avengers, on which Channel 4 was showing, Stephen Peele Avengers on a Saturday night, and that became my cult TV fix at the time. So, yeah, I drifted. But what I do remember about that last time going to the Doctor Who exhibition was that I felt really sorry for the lady at the gift shop, because they were replaying the Peter Davison, Colin Baker regeneration over and over again, and I just thought, no matter how much of a fan you are, that has got to do your head in, surely.
Yeah. How many times do you need to see that before it begins to get on your nerves? And similarly, I guess if you worked in the box office, the theme tune, which was on, from 10 in the morning till, well, sometimes high summer, they didn't shut till 10 p.m. at night. So 12 hours of the Doctor Who theme playing probably drove you a bit mad.
So let's talk about some of the contributors then, because you've had quite a lot of people come forward and give you their memories. Who have you got?
We started to put it together, and Alex has done a great job in sort of treating people on Facebook, because I'm not on Facebook. And I guess the first big name that we got was Julie Jones. And Julie Jones worked for BBC Exhibitions Unit from the mid-70s until sort of late 80s. And by about 82, I think it was, she became responsible for the Blackpool and Longley exhibitions in particular. So it was her job to go in the winter and to help deck it all out for the new season. She'd often be on set looking for what new exhibits might be suitable and the new stories that had just been aired. So we tracked down Julie. Straight away, she was really, really keen to get involved. Sent us loads of fantastic stuff that we'd not seen. We've got some great photographs in the book, which are from Julie's personal collection. Some of them are, high-res photographs taken inside the exhibition. There's also photographs of events that were linked to the exhibition. So things that, carnivals and things in Blackpool that took place over the years. So she was a big name. But Alex, you want to talk about Steve? Because Steve has written the foreword, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think Steve Camden is going to be a familiar name to anybody who's read his two books, The Doctor's Effect and The Doctor's Effects, which in the late 70s, as a 16-year-old, he got to work on the show, and he was assistant operator for K9. He was a regular attendee, a guest at conventions, certainly during the 90s and early 2000s, which is when I got in touch with him. We met at, it was a Battlefield convention. We kept in touch. We've been in touch for, it's probably getting on close to 20 years now. But he's such a great guy and very knowledgeable about props and all that sort of thing. So once we'd started talking about the book, I thought, let's get Steve involved. I'm sure he's got something that he'd like to contribute to it. The foreword that he's written it's just fantastic.
I must say that I am really, really looking forward to reading this book. You mentioned before that it closed in 85. Do we know the reason why it closed? Was it just that the popularity of the show was waning?
We know that it was heading towards that 18-month hiatus when it went off as a programme. There were things in place in terms of they wanted to do a tour of America with the props, which Julie Jones again was instrumental in sorting out, and she went across there with the big truck that was made. Andrew Skilleter's artwork on the side, amazing. But for those who worked there and for those who volunteered there, lots of people used to, dress up as monsters and things. We've spoken to lots of them, and it came out of the blue. So it literally was, end of October is normally the exhibition would close every year. Somebody was walking past during the winter time and noticed that the doors were wide open and things were being bought out. So he thought that it was just the normal renovation and they were changing over all the props and everything, but there was a massive skip, and the skip was being filled with all sorts of bits and pieces. I don't even want to think about what went in the skip. So that was the end of it. And so one of the guys who was a volunteer wrote a letter, Kevin Taylor wrote a letter to Julie Jones in January of '86 and said, I've heard that the exhibition is closing. And it was a very short reply. The letter that she wrote back is in the book. And it kind of ends that chapter, really, where we've done the year-by-year account of what was going on. And there's no real official reason for it. It just suggests that there are new ventures being planned for these things. Longleat continued, as we know, for many years after.
It coincided with a lease ending on the building as well, didn't it?
That was something else that was going on, yeah. So the guys who own the cafe next door, the Ritz self-service cafeteria, they had a lot to do with the exhibition, and the lease had come to an end. So it wasn't renewed by the BBC, and therefore the whole thing closed, yeah, unexpectedly.
Do you have a favourite exhibit in the exhibition?
Loads of. It's been really interesting going over the photographs, because we've had literally, I would say probably about 1,000 photographs now, which have come in from about 80 contributors. Richard Lever has sent the majority of those, because Richard sent about 500 of them, and some of them are really good quality. They're amazing, and it's been.
They look like they've been taken yesterday, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and the definition is amazing. Really bright colours and all, just as you want to remember it, really. And it's sort of, as you go through the years, you have favourites for each year, I guess. But there were some amazing ones. I mean, the Robots of Death display set that was set up one year. He's got an incredible photograph of that where they're operating on the table. Pirate Planet with the captain with the parrot on his shoulder. He's got an amazing shot of that. Scaroth is in there. So there were so many. I mean, Alex is a big Dalek fan. I guess you'll probably say something about Daleks. But for me, ones depending on the year, Marshmen, Mandrels, everything was in there at some point.
I think for me, yeah, I was obsessed with Daleks and still am. But I think seeing a real Dalek outside the entrance was such a massive, massive thrill. It was slightly disappointing to realise that the Daleks inside were not the ones from TV, but they were still great. But as I said, I was 7 back then. I really enjoyed Colin's first season, and I even enjoy it more all these years later, because I think there's some great ideas in there. There's a lot of dark humour. The effects were getting really good. But Revelation of the Daleks has always been a personal favourite. Revelation and Resurrection, actually. So for me, as a Dalek obsessive with those two stories, to actually get to see the props from them, like the glass incubating Dalek, which was the only time that was ever exhibited anywhere and then potentially skipped. Same with Colin's Garden of Fond Remembrance headstone. And I think one of the things that I was obsessed with was the Dalek mutant, and they actually had a destroyed Dalek prop in the back behind Avros. So that was a really fascinating thing to see. And again, I don't think it was ever exhibited anywhere else. So there was certainly some rare props there. And another one, I love the Sontarans, so to get to see Stike and Val from the Two Doctors, that was a great display. And I think the only thing that unsettled me in the exhibition, because I loved it all on screen, but one of the few episodes, I think 2 episodes terrified me when I was little. One was the Mordrin Undead, which is one of my earliest memories of the show. And actually the head of Stengos in Revelation was pretty terrifying. But obviously the empty hollow glass Daleks, not quite the same. But one thing that really did scare me was the Malice in the Awakening. So again, in '85, that was on show there. So that was sort of a thrill and a slightly scary thing to see.
I don't know whether you guys went to the Doctor Who experience, the one that was Earl's Court or Kensington, or the one in Cardiff.
No, I went to Llangol and I went to the Who Museum that opened in Blackpool a few years later, but I've never made it down to Cardiff. Well, actually, I did. I made it down to Cardiff when the very first exhibition was on in the Red Dragon Centre.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Very small scale.
Yeah, no, I never made it to either of them. I went to a few events, like things at the National Space Centre in Leicester. I think back in 2005 they had a really good exhibition called Up Close, and that was all the new series stuff. And again, I went to the second Blackpool Museum in 2008, year before it closed again.
So anyway, when does the book go live?
Okay, it goes live in 5 days from this recording. So Friday the 28th of August, and that was deliberate because we looked at the calendar probably a few months ago now, Alex, wasn't it, when we made this decision? And we said, okay, first of all, I needed a deadline to get it done. So we needed to put something in as a marker. And it just felt right to do it on a bank holiday, August bank holiday weekend, which traditionally was a time I was always in Blackpool. Yeah. That's what my family went every August. And so we looked at it and went, yeah, okay, let's go for Friday the 28th. People can spend the bank holiday weekend then reading through it. It's just about to touch 400 pages. So it's a massive publication. And we're also aware that even over the last 48 hours, we're still getting really exciting little bits of treasures and nuggets that we've never seen before. We had a wonderful 1979 floor plan sent to us on, I think it was Friday or Thursday. We've been looking for one of these. Alex in particular has been trying to really nail down the floor plans for each year. And we just got this sort of email saying, got this floor plan I bought 20 years ago in an auction, wondered if you'd like to share it in the book. And then me and Alex are like, wow, this is what we live for. And we've had a few moments like that, to be fair, where just from nowhere, you get these days. It seems like we have days where it's a bit like when buzzes come along, you get 3 at once. And Friday was just like that, getting the floor plan. Just blew us away, didn't it, Alex?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I just wanted to say that, I'm a massive Doctor Who fan, and the exhibition was a major part of my childhood, major part. And I'm sure I speak for millions of Doctor Who fans when I say how grateful I am that you guys put this together. It's a really excellent project. So thanks for doing the ebook, and thanks for appearing on. And I hope you come on again.
Thank you, Dave.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.